is my new thing.
Wait 1 second, let me get this started then
So if you talk your way through the funeral, it'll just be perfect. So just feel free to just talk all the way through the funeral.
Yeah, he's gonna lower it. Okay, Rabbi?
Yes.
All right, we're running.
Baruch Dayan Hamet, we praise the Judge of Truth. Oh, it's okay. She can multitask. She can talk and she can listen at the same time. We begin with Psalm 121 as we gather to lay to rest the body of our dear Eileen Katz. It's a sad time and the weather is beautiful at the same time. So we can gather and we can be relatively comfortable as we are uncomfortable because we're here. Asai enai el haharim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai, oseh shamayim va'aretz. Al yitain lamot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha yad yaminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakaka v'yarech balayla. Adonai yishmarcha mikol ra, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmar tzeicha v'uecha, me'atav ad olam. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. From whence cometh my help? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Lord is your guardian. He is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all harm. He will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. Death has taken our beloved Eileen Katz. Friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Eileen's love that united so many people in life, and which death cannot sever. For her companionship that was shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all of these and more, we give our thanks to God. It is a time of grief, and so once again we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures from Sefer Tehillim, from the book of Psalms. It brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator. In light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. Together let us recite the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It's a privilege to call forward Morgan. We call forward Morgan. We have 3 grandchildren, Stephen, Morgan, Taylor. Morgan will speak and say some words by her dear friend.
Good morning, everyone. Demure, soft-spoken. I'm so sorry, I'm reading the wrong obituary. Where is it? Come on.
Somebody else is supposed to be here. That's better.
Someone else is supposed to be here.
That's right.
In any event. The room stopped when she walked in it. True matriarch. Now I know I'm reading the right one. She spoke her mind. She was a force to be reckoned with. Everyone listened to her. She was probably one of the only people in my life that I actually did listen to, and I know that applies to most here, especially the immediate family. It wasn't even worth it. She was always right. She always will be. She was in my life about 18 years. Chai, 18. And we say in the Jewish religion, we say l'chaim, to life. Hers, although cut way too short, was lived so fully, and she was loved so much. My sister Taylor and I lost our grandparents long ago, and our relationship with them. When Lori, my dad, found love later in life, you could say, no one was happier than Grammy Eileen. And she looked so beautiful at that wedding when it eventually happened. She was stunning with all the work she had everyone do in creating her outfit. No one was happier for the soulmates that my dad found in her daughter Lori, and additionally, my Aunt Vicky and Uncle Scott as the most beautiful couples. Really, it's not so hard to believe that everybody was so special in her life. Beyond any blood, she was my grandmother. She taught us, she called us her granddaughters. And of course, Stephen was the shining star of her entire life. So proud of Stephen. Didn't that sound like her? I didn't even mean to do that. So proud. Even the kids around the block just adored her. And I see so many young people here standing in their groups. Thank you. It's beautiful. She would love it because she loved all of you. I remember so many Halloweens where she had everybody go out and get all the items because the kids knew to stop at her house for Halloween. It was the fun house. Not only did she give candy, but she gave full, move to the side, guys, there's a car coming through. Thank you. She gave full, huge bags to all the kids, filled with coloring books and crayons, fun and educational and tasty treats. She was the house to stop at. All the kids loved it there. She treated every single person in life with so much love. No matter who they were, whether they cleaned her house, did her yard. Marge and Daria, who were her team and ran it all, along with Vicki and Lori. Louise and Rosa, just anyone. She passed that down to us, how to treat people. And I got to tell you, even I couldn't get a hold of Louise to do my yard. It was always through her that I had to go, because she treated everyone just so incredibly well that they marched to her drum. Anything she said. She was so proud of everyone. She was proud when I went to law school. She helped pay for my tutor. She was big on tutors. I was not allowed to tell anyone that, but now you know. That's how I passed that bar. Thank you so much, Grammy. She was proud of my sister and I when we got married. She was so proud when Scott wrote his books. She would make sure everyone knew about it, and she would probably have a Chinese food lunch or a brunch or a family get-together each and every time, so we all knew what was going on and we could rightfully celebrate just how cool that is. The only author of our family. And Stephen, she was the most proud of. I touched on for a minute before, but he wrote a Facebook post just briefly commemorating her. It's hard to put your words together, but I loved what he said, and I told him this morning when he said, no one was more confident that he could succeed than her. And she felt that way about all of us. But my cousin Stephen, again, was her shining star. Every single award he got throughout the years, she was so proud of, she had pictures of, and she made sure everyone knew about. Again, rightfully so. But Stephen, you know, Jeopardy really did it for her. That might have been the moment of her life. Stephen went on Jeopardy, everyone, after so long, and he won it. And she was right there, every step of the way, the most proud. And that picture with Alex Trebek, she loved it.
It's in there.
It's in there. Thank you. Good idea. Stephen, just know you couldn't have made anyone more proud. She seemed to know everything. I don't need to tell you all that, so I'll skip most of that part. She was very sharp. She told you what she felt or not, and she kept secrets. I bet she has secrets of people here that she literally took to her grave. She would sort of taunt us sometimes and let us know that she was aware of secrets, deep ones, about people. Oh no. She kept them. Not her daughter's strong suits, by the way. You could get the whole story. She knew what to blab about, but she knew what to keep private, and she was a confidant. Dr. Katz, which one am I talking about? I mean her. She helped with procedures for my Papa Len. She was like his nurse. I swear it was less than a year ago. I keep wishing I documented it, but I had this thing on my face that needed to be drained, and she just laid me on that big old bed, and she sterilized something and stabbed me with it, and she was instructing him on what to do. And although it was so crazy freaky, I mean, it fixed it. It went down, it was gone. She went and got the medication. I don't know where she stashes these things, or if she does stash medication. But you couldn't tell her no about anything. Okay, whether it was a holiday, because she loved getting together with family, everyone. Moving something in the basement, random tasks for Lori or Vicki. Again, she had a whole team. And she loved each of you so deeply. couldn't tell her no at all. One of my favorite real quick stories is my stepmom Lori told me that she once said after high school that she wanted to go to cosmetology school because she was really into that as a hobby and thought she could do something with it, which she could have, and that's wonderful. But Grammy Eileen said, sure, you could do that after you go to college. Okay? So I loved that about her. She was so big on education. For Stephen, for my boys, she thought Carson, my oldest, needed a tutor. At 2 years old, she wanted to pay for it. She needed me to find it. A tutor, you guys, a tutor. And she talked with her eyes. She looked at you, I won't even try, but it was like, and she would say your name. So for me, it would be like Morgan. And it actually meant that she was very pleased. She was so happy. And a lot of times she would give me those eyes about how perfect the boys were, her great-grandsons. And she was so excited to welcome her third great-grandson, my sister Taylor's, her granddaughter Taylor, and Mike's baby in March, who she'll look down on it. And she would just look with those eyes, and you knew what she meant. She didn't have to say it. So if it was about the boys, I figured, how perfect they are, and I could hear it in her look of her eyes. Secondly, it would be about how happy she was that we were a family unit, and how one member of the family, and I specifically, had a really tight bond, and she would look at me with those eyes like, Morgan, I'm so happy about this. And I knew what she meant. And she would also look at me with those eyes about the Carusos and how happy she was that they were a part of our family. She loved them so much. And we're all a family, and that made her happy. Papa Len was the absolute love of her life. They would banter. They loved each other. They could not have possibly been a better match. I find inspiration, and I think we all should in our own relationships, to have the type of love and the lengthy marriage that they were lucky enough to have. She was grateful for every person in her life. She was grateful for all of you. She was so grateful of her great-grandson. Just this past Monday, I'm glad that they got to experience being there. They were there 1 to 2 times a week since birth. And she was so sharp as a tack when Carson became obsessed, if you will, with spiders and remotes. She figured out how to buy tons and tons off Amazon and hide them in various closets, and she was just doing that on Monday. And, when you think of how to go, I guess, she saw her great-grandkids, she saw her daughters, she saw her grandson, she saw her husband, and she laid down in her bed in her own bedroom. And I guess if you have to think about it, maybe that would be a good way to go. We all thought it would be a long, drawn-out hospital situation, and it wasn't. Her body just had different plans, as she always did. I have my own theory, and it's just mine, but maybe that's a mother's way of protecting those she loves from having to see that. And just like her, she'd do it on her own terms, very peacefully. And she'll continue to watch over us. In closing, I want to thank everybody for all the food you've been insisting on sending and contacting the family. I want to thank you all for coming here and safely spreading out and being here despite COVID, but that didn't stop her, just so you know, from seeing all those that she loved so much, because she knew that even at her age, any day could be her last. L'chaim, to life. A life amazingly lived. Grammy will never stop loving you. Thank you.
I'll say something quick.
Oh, please.
Let me get the measure of my mic here. Okay. Wasn't necessarily planning on saying anything, but people usually want me to speak at these things, I think partially because I unfortunately have a lot of experience. Hi, Mom, by the way. I miss you too. I wanted to thank everybody for coming. I was a little afraid that because of COVID, Grammy wouldn't get the audience that she definitely knew she deserved. And so I appreciate everybody who came out. I think that without the restrictions we currently have, we probably could have filled a stadium for this funeral. I'm not gonna lie, I'm partially tempted to just come up and speak because it would probably be the only time I'm this close to Grammy that I can talk so long uninterrupted or win an argument with her. I have never known a time in my life when she wasn't there. She has been such an important part of my existence. When I was a moody, depressed 15-year-old who'd lost both his parents, she, who'd already raised 3 daughters, stepped in and pinch hit and was willing to also raise a son that she basically already had, because she'd almost already been like a mother to me since I was born. She was, at the same time, the single most frustrating person I have ever had to deal with, or had the pleasure of dealing with in my 33 years on this planet. And yet, there's nobody in the universe who ever made me try harder and want to be better, to be the man that she always knew I was. And so much confidence that I got from her, because I knew that even though I could do no wrong in her eyes, she just wanted to be proud of me. And I'm glad I was able to make you proud, Graham. Thank you, everybody, again for coming in. I'll never forget you, Graham.
And to all of those words, let us say Amen.
Amen.
So we are gathered this morning to fulfill the solemn obligation of paying our respects, of course, to the memory of our dearly departed Eileen Katz. Her Hebrew name Esther Chaya Bat Shmuel. Esther, you know from the book of Esther. Esther was the woman who actually in so many ways saved the Jewish people. Not like it's a big thing, right? Which she could have done. And her middle name Chaya. Chaya comes from the word Chaim, which means life. She graced this earth for 87 and a half years, and we are saddened, we're heartbroken, and we also gather to lovingly recount. She was a one of a kind, fun, beautiful, unique, brilliant, in so many ways ahead of her time. But Esther stood up in the book of Esther only about 2,500 years ago, so she was a throwback as well. She was brutally honest, and even in spite of her honesty, or maybe because of her honesty, people flocked to her. She was loved by many. As Vicki and Lori recalled, her parents were married for 67 years. And they became one a long time ago. And it started on their wedding night. On June 21st, 1953, my mom said to my dad, she needed $1,000, which she promptly said, we don't have this money. She said, well, I'm sure that we have this money because of the gifts that we've been given for the wedding. So reluctantly, he gave her the money. And that Monday, she went down to Merrill Lynch, which her parents had forbidden her to do up to this point in her life, but now she was a married woman. And she opened an account under Leonard's name, because at that point, that's what Merrill Lynch said. You gotta open it up under his name. And from then on, Dad's job was to bring home the bacon, so to speak. Bring home the money. And Mom's job was to invest it. And their love of stocks and bonds and horse racing and craps and playing the slots in Vegas began then. As Vicki and Lori talked about Eileen's love of numbers, a Torah portion came to mind, and actually we'll read this Torah portion in June, May-June, which is the time of their anniversary in May. June. It's the first Torah portion of the book of Numbers. And if you take a look at it, it's a census count to establish the number of males available to do the service in the tabernacle, the number of the Levites. And the family, the Kohathites, were to take the most precious possessions of the tent of meeting as our ancestors struck through the wilderness. If you read this section, to most ordinary modern readers, it is, it's incredibly boring. All these names and all these numbers, right? And I can see people nodding off now. All these names and all of these numbers. So, because there are all these names and all these numbers, there must be a deeper reason. There's nothing in the Torah that means nothing. And so Rashi, a biblical commentator from the 11th century in France, said the reason that God lists all the names and all the numbers is because it's a measure of God's love for each and every person. Each person needs to be counted. And so we gather here because we only count and recount someone who is loved by us. You only count things that are important to you. You only count people that are important to you, unless you're totally meshugah. But you shouldn't get aggravated by people that don't count to you. People that count to you, you recount them, and you think of them, and you mention them, their deeds. And that is our dear Eileen. She was born here in Cleveland on May 20th, 1933. Her parents, Samuel and Pearl Katz. Yes, same last name. Of blessed memory. She's survived by her younger brother, Eugene, his wife Judy. They grew up in Shaker Heights. Eileen Katz met Leonard Katz in high school. He was in a fraternity at Cleveland Heights High School, and she was in a sorority at Shaker. She liked the way he looked. She liked how intelligent he was, and that he had the same last name, Katz. That day, she knew he was the one, and he was. They married June 21st, 1953, shared a loving and devoted marriage of more than 67 years, and we send our profound condolences to Leonard as well. Many have been the blessings and many have been the difficulties in life. No one lives a life without a Lord. No one lives a life without difficulty. There have been many blessings. Children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. If I miss the names, you'll call it out like she would. All right, child, Vicki married to Scott. Terry, of blessed memory. Bruce, of blessed memory, her husband. Lori, her husband Bobby. Grandchildren, Stephen, Morgan married to Anthony. Taylor married to Michael. And this is like, it's old school, right? Old Jewish, old Catholic, old Italian, whatever. To have two sisters married to two brothers, you almost feel like Marlon Brando someplace in The Godfather. Hey, just arranging these weddings. And then grandchildren, Carson and Mason. And God willing, everything goes well on the way, one. Yeah, great-grandchildren. Thank you for calling it out. I wanted to give you something. So Lori and Vicki also said Stephen was their golden and only grandson. He spent almost every weekend at our parents' house. After he was born, and he lived there permanently since age 15. We all accepted that he was the favorite to my mother. And in 2019, when he won Jeopardy, really this cemented it. You know, Jeopardy champion. It was apparently the happiest day of her life. Up to that point. I think there have been others that have been happy ones as well.
But that did it.
Right, but that did it. She probably invested the money. Right?
He took half.
She did that.
She did. She took half. Right. Nice. No. That's a good thing. Leonard was 2 years older than Eileen. He went to Western Reserve undergrad. After marriage, they moved to Columbus. He went to Ohio State Medical School. He finished medical school, and then they came back here to Cleveland for a short time. And then he was drafted into the Army as a doctor. And he was stationed stateside in Minnesota for almost a year. Then they came back to Cleveland, and they've been here since. They lived in Shaker in the same house they live in now since 1972. It's good to be able to put roots down in a place where people can come, people that come back, and they have a sense of stability and foundation and roots. As you know, Len was in private practice in dermatology, and he did a charity clinic, and he did a lot of work for the VA, and Eileen managed his 401k, and her dad's 401k, and other people helped him out. She and Leonard would go to Vegas about every 6 to 8 weeks to gamble for decades. I mean, that was their Florida. Some people like to go to Florida. They went to Vegas. Craps was her favorite, apparently. And she was a stock market mogul. She was a day trader until the day she died. She was trading. She was smart as a whip. I mean, that was her world until the day she died. Apparently, Lori was saying that there's a stock market channel on the TV. I mean, on the radio in the car, listening to it.
Years ago, yeah.
Yeah. They were an eccentric couple, but I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, they had the first microwave in the neighborhood. You know, they would always have these gadgets. And they opened their house to kids that maybe their family situation was a little bit more difficult to do. And as the girl said, Mom took in strays. And that's actually a lovely, I'm sure that some of them are here. Absolutely. It's a lovely and a wonderful thing.
Rabbi,
Yes.
as far as I remember, she at one time had a ticker tape in her bedroom.
Oh, she had a ticker tape in her bedroom at one time? You know what? That is insane. Up to this point, I thought everything was relatively normal. That is totally Michigan. Do they even make those anymore? Oh, that's too bad. Wow. For the holidays, she would invite anyone we wanted, the girl said. We always had holidays at our house. And upcoming Hanukkah and just passing Thanksgiving is going to be a difficult thing. She was the matriarch of the family. Lori said, Mom wore the pants in the family, and she didn't hide it. She was Queen Eileen, and she took care of a lot of responsibilities which made Dad's life easier. She was actually the queen of the Stouffer's outlet as well. You know where that is. She didn't really cook or bake very much. She would go to Stouffer's. You put that in the oven, you bake it up, that lasagna comes out. Oh, delicious. Stouffer's was the major cook in our house. Mom would put it in the oven. She had candy and cookies, and apparently there was a little partying when the girls were in high school, but you know, they weren't the partiers, but they would have their house available to people so that Mom and Dad would let people come over and make sure that they knew where we were, I guess. Not a bad idea. On the first floor, the bedroom had couches and a refrigerator and 2 big beds in it, and that's where they entertained. As they got older, and I say that figuratively, they would wear matching pajamas. I mean, they watched movies together holding hands, and they were a fun, loving couple. And she, by the way, as you know, didn't give up on anything. I mean, if she wanted to make a point, you were going to hear it. And she was a medical marvel over the years. She's had many, many illnesses, many, many diseases and conditions. The doctor said she was going to die early, much earlier. And actually, she survived cancer a couple of times, and she actually buried some of her doctors, in so to speak. She was a one-of-a-kind with a big heart. She was generous, and she donated many places. She sponsored me at the golf outing for our synagogue. She was a good shopper. Lori and they could shop. And Lori brought Carson and Mason to visit Great Grammy every Monday. And Stephen and Morgan and Taylor called her Grammy. They visited with Auntie Vicky and Uncle Scott. Daria Mooney has been at Eileen's side for over 10 years, and she does all the cooking and baking. And she's been the light of Mom's life. And she will still help Leonard. Marge Russ was with Mom for 40 years as her administrative assistant, and more than that as well. And so these two women in so many ways meant everything to Mom, the girls said. And on Tuesday, quite unexpectedly, Eileen breathed her last. She has been through so much medically over the years that you didn't expect that this was going to be it so quickly. So there's no more pain, or there's no more deterioration. There's just rest and wholeness and peace. And just like Shabbat is a time of rest and peace, so for our dear Eileen, this is a time of rest and peace for her. Her soul is returning to God, to be with the souls of her dear relatives and friends and the ancestors of our people. We learn this in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 7. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. So Eileen is now at peace. And one day, Judaism teaches one day all of our souls will be together with our loved ones in a time called Olam Haba, the world to come. This is a place. Olam Haba is a time, an eternal time. And you will be together with her again. The family has allowed us to send along a couple of old Haggadahs with her in the casket. It's a mitzvah to lay to rest the body of your loved one, and also it's a mitzvah to provide respectful burial for holy books of our tradition. So a couple of Haggadahs are going with her. Appreciate that opportunity. Your memories are filled to overflowing, and we give thanks to God for this gift of long and dynamic life. And in some ways, she was just a force of nature. 87 and a half years. And as you think of her, find ways to honor her memory through your deeds. Have a big heart. Be generous. Be of help to other people. And do this in her loving memory. For only through the deeds which we perform can the world be compensated for her loss. And so we conclude with words from the first chapter of the book of Job. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. The Lord hath given, the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Let us say, Amen. Say shalom bimroma, Uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu. Berkowitz-Kumin-Bookatz Yisrael, Yahaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Berkowitz Yisrael. May God, who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, may God cause peace to rain down upon us, upon all Israel, upon the soul of our dearly departed Eileen Katz, Esther Chaya Bat Shmuel. And let us say, Amen. 90. Adonai ma'on atah hayita lanu b'dor v'ador, v'terem harim yuladu v'tchalel eretz v'tevel, u'me'olam ad olam atah el. O God, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity you are God. You return us to dust. You decree, return you mortals. For in your sight, 1,000 years are as yesterday when it has passed, or as a watch in the night. You engulf us in sleep. We are like grass that renews itself. At daybreak it flourishes anew. At dusk it withers and dries up. The span of our life is 80 years and 10, or given strength 80 years. But the best of those years have trouble and sorrow. They pass by speedily, and we are in darkness. Teach us, therefore, so to number our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. Turn to us, O God. Show mercy to your servants. Satisfy us at daybreak with your steadfast love, that we may sing for joy all our days. Let your deeds be seen by your servants, your glory by your children. May your favor, O God, be upon us. Establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. Please rise for El Maleh Rachamim. Into your care, O God, we entrust the spirit of our dear Eileen Katz. For you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, O God, are with us, a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our life, our hope in eternity. El Maleh Rachamim, Shochen Gamromim, Ametzeh Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kafeh Hashchina, Im Kedoshim U'Tohorim, Kezohar Rakia Masirim, Et Nishmat Esther Chaya Bat Shmuel, Shalacha L'Olama, Ba'al HaRachamim, Yastivreha B'Seter K'nafav L'Olamim, Vayitzro V'Yitzro HaChaim, Et Nishmata Adonai U'Nachalata, V'Tzanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava, Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Esther Chaya Bat Shmuel, our dear Eileen Katz. She has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We sanctify God's name as we recite Kaddish for Eileen. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach erutei v'yamelich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chay l'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalal v'zman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah muvarach le'olam u'lamei al maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnafer, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei l'kudusha b'richu. Le'elah min kol berchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba v'nishmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom v'yimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. And now, those who wish, we'll begin with the family who would like to cast earth upon the casket to help escort Eileen's body to its resting place, final resting place. Adonai, go your way, for God has called you. Lech Adonai Yeimah, go your way, and may God be with you. V'halach lefanecha tzidkecha, kevod Adonai yasfecha. May your righteousness go before you, and may the glory of God receive you. Would everyone here not wearing a ribbon please repeat these words after me, speaking them to the morning family. May God console you.
May God console you
With all who mourn.
with all who mourn
In Zion and Jerusalem.
in Zion and Jerusalem.
Hamakom yirachem etchem b'tosha le'tzion b'Yerushalayim. And after the family,
Everyone else.
where's their cup?
I think it's this one, yeah.
When the family is finished, if we could make, it's called a shura, an aisle of consolation. Mr. Berkowitz will line people up, and then the family can leave on their way toward their car, and it's an aisle of consolation for the family members. We'll recite Kaddish for Eileen for the next month, every Friday night. Our services, it's a virtual thing at 7:30, Michigas, but you know, doing what we have to do. And it is virtual, so please join us. And also, Hebrew school kids on Wednesday afternoons and Sunday school kids on Sunday will sing Kaddish for Eileen. It'll be our privilege to do so for the next month entirely. And this concludes our service here at the cemetery.
Friends, my left and my right facing one another. And people to my right, people to my left, please leave 6 feet in between you. This aisle is called the Shura. It's an aisle of consolation. It allows the family to know that they're not walking alone.
And there's Shmuel right there.
I didn't see it yet. Where'd he go? Somebody's sunglasses. Walk between their friends through the Shura, the Isle of Consolation. The gauntlet of love. The gauntlet of the Together you'll walk. If anyone else wishes an opportunity to place some earth on the grave, you're welcome to do so at this point. We're just going to allow the family to pass between their friends. Again, you can come forward and place some earth within the grave at this point. Otherwise, both services are concluded.